So normally I don't like making videos like this just because, one, I don't want to seem all doom and gloom, especially for one of the games that I've played the most in my time just playing games, let alone just content creation in general. But it's still a very important aspect to bring up. Now, earlier in this week that I'm recording this, it's right now August 3rd, Bungie actually made a release on Twitter indicating the firing or the layoffs of 220 Bungie employees. Now, when you look at it and everything else, there's a lot of impacts that have occurred with it. One, the situation for everything is just not in a good spot. You see on Twitter so many people who are literally just saying like if they've survived or if they're one of the 220 layoffs. And it's a lot. It is very much a lot of stuff that's coming down for that, especially when you hear further information coming out from, not only from like reporters, but also from press releases from other staff. And I solely blame Bungie's leadership on that. Peter Parson, also known as Peter Carson, has also made a lot of financial decisions that were pretty fucking stupid, as what I would like to say. While they had fired off 220 Bungie employees, ranging from multiple different departments, from the music to level design to everything else in between, even, the map pack developers when it came to it, Peter Carson had bought around $2.3 million worth of cars off of Bring a Trailer. Now, I'm not going to bring that up. I'm just going to talk about the fact that you spent $2.3 million on cars while we're hearing stories that employees from Bungie aren't able to even make ends meet easily. That's financially stable. Especially when it comes to going to anything from getting food for the kids, making sure they're able to get in on time, insurance, health, all these things. Like, you're sending them, essentially making them sweatshop workers, it feels like, comparatively, but you're spending $2.3 million on cars? Like, what? What's even worse is that we had other people leave, like noticeable people. Earlier in the year, we already had Joe leave Bungie, and then also we had, apparently reportedly, we had Luke Smith leave and Mark Noseworthy, who were both very, very impactful and sizable people when it came to Bungie. When Luke Smith took over, we felt like it was in good hands, but it's still, the fact of the matter is that these guys have essentially left, whether it was part of the layoffs or if they left on their own accord. It's still just the fact that they aren't there anymore. Now, obviously, we do still have Cosmo23, TMG, and a bunch of other people, but it's still a lot of like the main designers, the main development lead, the narrative lead for the final shape is gone. And on top of that, a lot of stuff has been starting to come out, like the fact that what Operation Payback was supposed to be a spin-off game of the original Destiny storyline, a third-person open-world shooter, which honestly sounds really, really cool. Like, don't get me wrong, I think that sounds awesome. But no, that was canceled with everything else. You have essentially a ton of stuff going through that it hurts. It hurts a lot when you look at it. Because ultimately you see stories from everyone else coming up where stuff is just chaotic, so to speak. Like, Paul Tassi has put out a report for this. Obviously, we've seen multiple different videos come out from Azzacross, Dado, and all that. But it's still just a fact of, one, the plans for Destiny 3 never really existed. Essentially, they're going to continuously go on with Destiny 2, but not going to be making those expansions like we had before, like Final Shape, Forsaken, Witch Queen or anything of that sort. They're going to be just content packs. Like, it will contain familiar elements like destinations, raids, and campaigns, but they're not going to be as big. People have been comparing it to the size of Shadowkeep, but honestly, I think that's looking at it a little bit more positively. It could be closer to what we had back in year 1 with Curse of Osiris and the Red War, you know, all that, and, you know, the Warmind DLC. Those were very small content packs. We got a raid, we got a campaign, and we got a location. But again, the amount of stuff in there was lacking compared to everything else. Now, it is going to be a huge issue because they're also looking to develop more replayable, unique activities like the Coil, which is a hit or miss because, again, the Coil was really fun. I really enjoyed it, but trying to make more unique scenarios and more situations is a bit of an issue when it comes to that. Now, when it comes to anything beyond like with the Frontiers, it's possible that these new locations are going to be like the planets that we go outside of the system, which is like okay, but it still comes when everything else. And it looks like instead of having this episodic release that they're now having, which is every 4 months, they're going to be making it a lot less. They're going to be making it every 6 months. So essentially, we will be able to get a on Frontiers, we'll get launch on that for one content pack. 6 months later, we get another content pack, and that seems like what's going to be the situation for that. Now, the smaller content pack is apparently what going to be into the light is. If you have gone through that aspect, which it was free, I'll say that it is free, but it's still just the fact of even if you were to buy the content packs, not the expansions, we're not going to call those anymore, and we have this, that's still a huge drought. I don't like that. I want to have a consistent time playing the game. Like, again, when I was going through the final shape, the echoes, and all that, I had videos going up on the main Let's Play channel every single day for a month at minimum. Just channeling out every single time, like a raid, we got the campaign, we had patrols, we had all that stuff. But now, essentially, we're going to be like, hey, we are not going to have X, Y, and Z for 6 months. So I'm going to have like maybe 3 videos on, in a month based solely on Destiny 2, and then, the rest is just fuck all. And I don't like that. I don't like that at all because, again, this is a game that I love to show off. This is a game that I love to play, but we don't have anything to show or to play. Like, I don't like that. I want to play it, but it's not working here. Like, for a game that's essentially supposed to be always ever expanding, the fact that, 1, you cut out like a bunch of people, and 2, you were expecting for some reason, the final shape to be better than Lightfall, which doesn't really happen, especially when it comes to sequential like expansions. Because guess what? The reason why Lightfall sold so well is because Witch Queen did so well. Reason why the final shape did so poorly is because Lightfall was made so poorly. Like, there shouldn't be any surprise when it comes to this. Like, oh, it's not working. It's like, well, that's because it's the fucking story is what kind of drives the whole thing. But now that you essentially finished off the story here at the final shape, which is fine, I don't mind the ending of that. That's actually really good that they did this. It's still just the fact of like, you're trying to get more out of it by also reducing the amount that's there. Like, again, they're trying to focus more. Like, hell, they had canceled, obviously they had canceled like Operation Payback, which was supposed to be like the spin-off shooter, just like I said, which Mark and Luke were working on. But it's like, the problem is that it's just like, it was apparently too much of a quote-unquote risk to do a full Destiny 3, which doesn't make sense, because guess what? Destiny 2 was also could have been seen as a liability, and look at it now. It is one of the most played games for many people, and hell, it's always staying in the limelight. There's no type of game that can compete with Destiny 2 without blatantly copying Destiny 2. Like, you can't really have a lot of games. Like, yeah, you'll see there's a bunch of games that have an MMO aspect, a resource collection aspect, a grinding aspect, endgame aspect, but they don't all fit together in the same way that Destiny 2 has it. There's not many games at all that you could really say, oh yes, it fits the FPS looter shooter genre with endgame content, a really engaging story, and a universe that always makes everything feel inclusive and ever evolving. Trust me, there's no way you can actually say that, and if you bring up a game, I can guarantee you either that game has missed one of those aspects or was a plan that was axed because of some higher up in the company said no, too much work. The fact that this game is essentially going down as badly as it is right now is depressing, but also is expected. Because again, when you finish off the final shape, we all thought that this was going to be the last time that we actually, are going to be playing Destiny 2. Now, with that being said, does that mean that I'm going to be like branching off to other stuff? Yeah, I mean, we're speaking right now. Once Human is going up on the channel, I've been playing a ton of that. I've been really enjoying myself in that. And so it's possible that that might also come up and kind of like bring in part of like what you see on that channel. But also, that doesn't mean that the other aspect of it, it's like I'm going to go away from Destiny 2 completely. No, that's not the case. I'm going to stick with Destiny 2, but don't be surprised if you don't see as much of it on the channel as it was. Because as much as I love Destiny and the universe and all that, the amount of shit that they're kind of tossing out compared to what they're planning on bringing, it does not look good. And I think out of everything, one thing that they should definitely do is get rid of the leadership at Bungie, because the leadership is just we don't trust it. Like, no one trusts it. Even the internal teams don't trust it. But the problem is, no one understands that up there, they're not firing Peter Carsons. I think he should be removed because the amount of stuff that has been done within it and a lot of the complexities and a lot of the complications came from the higher ups, came from the leadership. It wasn't something that it was like, hey, here is something that the team wrote in. A lot of the stuff that was done for Final Ship was apparently rewritten so many times, and the designs of the missions have been altered multiple times before they even came out in the final shape that they are, pun not intended, and that caused that massive delay. And then all of a sudden, they have this massive, content that has to come out during the delay. They had the whole situation for like the Dread, the Dual Destiny, the Verity encounters, the exotics, the Excision, Ergo Sum. All these things were created because, again, they were told that by leadership, hey, this was the make or break situation. And, at this point, they all feel like betrayed. Because now we have, oh, hey, there's the new IP Marathon that's coming back. Apparently that's the make or break, not the thousands of hours that were created within that delay to make Final Shape be amazing. Essentially spitting in the face of every single Bungie employee that worked on that. Like, no, like that's just dumb to me. You don't do that when it comes to, it's like, oh, it's a make or break. Like, I'm sorry, I didn't realize that they signed up for fucking EA's, system. Like, what? Like, who would be, doing that? And the problem is that if this is not only just affecting, the regular veteran players that have been there since day one, this is also infecting the new players. Like, the Into the Light was supposed to be a revamped version of how you get into being a new light. And the problem is, it still feels really freaking bad at it because they didn't do anything. Like the amount of effort that they put in was great, but it didn't achieve as much as they wanted to. And that was the problem that they did not address at all. And that's a huge issue when it comes down to it. Because again, you need to try and get new players in, and if they're not inviting, they're not going to go in. You would need to have at least someone there to kind of guide them through to get to that stuff. That shouldn't be the case. if someone who has never played the game before, knows nothing about Destiny 2 or Destiny in general and wants to get in, they're essentially given the middle finger. And that's not something that you would want to give to new players. If you want to give them the middle finger, then give them the emote of the middle finger, not this. Work on this, make it better. And the problem is that because no one has done anything for it, there's nothing really enticing people to be like, oh hey, join in here, or anything of that sort on their own. A lot of the times they would be recommended by friends who's played for hours on end, for days on end. Hell, I've even recommended players into it, and guess what? Because of that new light experience, they felt really disillusioned with the whole aspect of like, hey, this is a fun game. It happens because of that. Like, this is not something that they should be there. It should be something that has to be fixed, because if it's not fixed, then you're screwing yourself out of all the new players that are going to be coming in, and it's only going to be returning players. And even then, with the fact that the newer stuff that's coming out is going to be essentially a downgrade to what we're getting right now, that's not going to look good. You're making this situation worse and worse by the day, because again, we're getting more information over and over, which does kind of give us a little bit of optimism, but not much. Because again, you already just ruined and shattered everyone's hopes within Bungie, the community of Destiny, and everyone with this massive layoffs, with these major people who we look up to and hoped for the best, gone and left out of the blue that we find out. You have notable music artists that are gone. We have notable creative directors and creative leads gone. Narrative leads gone. What is left there? Like, it's just ridiculous. Like, the fact that, that Bungie is now essentially just fucking tied to this whole games as a service, like, prototype or system from here on out. Before that, they had Halo. Halo was amazing. It was great. It was awesome. They swapped over. They had Destiny 2 and they had Destiny. Those were great. But the problem is now because they have been kind of sucked into this, and now they're going into this whole games as a service model. And they're not learning to adapt the games as a service model to what we would want. Like, I'm not going to deny the fact that, games as a service models are kind of stupid and can really just generate shitty, useless slop. But if they're applied in the right way, it can work. This is not working. I'm sorry. Like, again, Final Shape expansion literally saved Destiny 2 for a little bit, but apparently not enough to the expectation of the higher ups, who apparently oversold what Bungie could do, which is friggin' ridiculous. Like, why? Why would you do that? But it's now just like, it's just not really that good, because again, we have an issue of I don't know, it's just there's nothing single player anymore coming from Bungie, and I don't like that. I want there to be some sort of single player aspect into it, because again, the aspect of what originally Destiny had, there was the single player campaign. Like, you can go through the story on your own. Yeah, it brings other people in, but that's later on. It's not like, oh hey, you have to bring people in immediately. You can go through the campaign on your own. Like, that's what I did with every single campaign up until this one. Like, I've just always been doing it on my own because it's something that I can do. But now everything is just having this multiplayer aspect involved in it, and it just gets ridiculous to the point where if your entire player game base is gone, what's going to be there to keep it alive? It's going to be just the same different people, same thing over and over and over again, and then it just becomes boring as fuck, and no one wants that. No one ever wants that. And with the fact that everything is just kind of just set up in small little teams instead of just having massive departments connected to X, Y, and Z, it doesn't work because there's no cohesion compared to it. Like, the entire narrative department, the entire gameplay department, the design, the audio, all that stuff are now just built into these small strike teams that just get remade, reformed over and over again. and it doesn't make sense. Like, it looks like it's just so much of a bundling slop from what we've like heard and what we've like read on. It's ridiculous. And the problem is that when it comes to it, the fact that we're in this situation where they're going to be continuously adding on more to Destiny 2, there's a possibility that we may go back to vaulting, because this game was not supposed to last as long as it did. Ultimately, I think what they should have done is they should have just like cut it off after Shadowkeep. Keep everything that was in there for Shadowkeep, from the Red War to Shadowkeep, as its own. Destiny 3 becomes, its own game, and it goes through it that way. That's fine. Like, I'm fine with that. Or better yet, after Final Shape, we keep it the same system. We have Final Shape. That ends off Destiny 2. Whoop-de-fucking-do, go to Destiny 3. Leave everything there. Make a separate game. But they're not. They're not doing that. Why? Because they want to keep the same player base, and the problem is that they're tossing more stuff into the game, which is likely going to be less quality and less enjoyment, causing the community to just dissolve into nothing, either going off to other games or just not playing this game entirely. And I think that's something that really needs to be taken into account before they do anything stupid again like they have within the last couple of years. Mass layoffs is never a fun thing to look at, to see. Essentially the massive destruction is of like these teams, causing this whole stupid mishmash of strike teams and them working on a bunch of other crap. And then like one story of the map packs for like PvP, didn't realize that they were making a map pack until it was announced on Twitter through a video. Like, they had no idea. The fact that they had no prior knowledge to it and then all of a sudden were forced into this crunch, that's never fun. That's never something that anyone would want. And that's always a problem, and I think that's something where it comes to everything, is that it's hard. Now, there's a couple of things that obviously need to be done. One, fire the fucking CEO and the entire leadership board of Bungie. Dissolve that shit and bring in new people. Bring in people from Bungie that know what it's like to be an employee. They're the ones that will be able to get the job done. They'll be the people who will likely get the right direction for it. Because ultimately, when it comes to this whole situation, even with Sony involved, Bungie is still its own company for now. They still have an opportunity to salvage what they can. And the first thing that they need to make sure is gone is to trim out the fat, especially the one that's now made a $2.3 million spending spree, and also had tried to make it seem like, oh, this is such a tough thing for it. Remove the leadership, make a different game, reorganize and restructure within the team itself, and give a reason for players to be confident in the game. Because as of right now, I am not confident. I will never be confident from here on out. I will always be apprehensive, and I will be divesting into other games, like I have been now for a very long time. The aspect of everything within this is not something that I like, and this is going to shatter a lot of people's confidence and a lot of people's hopes and dreams when it comes to this game. And not only that, that's just us talking about the community. It's making the lives of the employees even worse. But anyway, that's enough of me ranting and raving. What are your thoughts on this? Because honestly, I'm kind of curious about what you guys think as well. Because obviously, I think I might be on the side of the majority. But again, other people can have different perspectives on this. And if you are a Bungie employee who either is, who survived the layoffs, or who unfortunately were cut from Bungie, I do wish you well. I hope everything goes well. I hope you are able to make whatever you want, what you're passionate about, what you came into the company for, and I hope you find a good position for yourself, whether it's within Bungie or if you're looking for a new position. Hopefully you find a place where a company that actually respects you. And if you're a Bungie leadership or possibly the CEO, I want you out of the fucking company effective immediately. Fuck you and your bullshit, stupid decisions, you entitled pieces of shit. But until then, thank you guys for watching. I will try to get more review videos up as soon as possible. But until then, take care.